Okay, I think we're ready to go. All right, everyone, welcome to From Insight to Impact Evaluation Strategies for Arts and Culture Entities. My name is Amara Fehring, and I am the Community Development and Arts Learning Specialist for the Wyoming Arts Council, and I will be your host today. While we go through some introductions, I'd love for you guys to, anyone who's joining us, to jump in the chat and say your name and what organization you're coming from, just so we can say hey. So the first person I'm going to introduce is Dr. Sarita Keller. Sarita is a board member for the Wyoming Arts Alliance, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and also the Wyoming Arts Alliance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I work at the University of Wyoming Art Museum, and here I am in my office. But I'm also a board member. So on behalf of the Wyoming Arts Alliance, I'm thrilled to have you join us today. Today's for our online arts and culture series. Whether you're an artist, advocate, educator, or community leader, your presence here reflects the shared passion we all have for arts in Wyoming. As we come together today, I want to take a moment to express our deep gratitude for the ongoing partnership between the Wyoming Arts Council and the Wyoming Arts Alliance. Their support, vision, and dedication to fostering a vibrant arts community across our state are instrumental in making our work possible. This collaboration strengthens not only our organization, but also the arts ecosystem in Wyoming as a whole. At this time, I would also like to extend an invitation to all of our Wyoming arts and culture partners. Please join us on February 28th at the Capitol for lunch and conversation to celebrate Wyoming Arts and Culture Day. We kindly request that you RSVP, and I'll provide details in the chat box. Thank you for being part of this important conversation. We look forward to the insights, ideas, and collaborations that will come from today's session. Enjoy the webinar, and once again, thank you for your support and engagement with the Wyoming Arts Alliance.
Thank you, Sarita. Love it. Love to hear it. Love to see it. Okay, so now we'll introduce our panelists. Today with us, we have Dr. Ashlea Espinal and Dr. Tiger Robeson. Ashlea, will you go ahead and introduce yourself and say where you are and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yes, just want to say welcome to everyone joining us today. Happy to be here with all of you. I, as Amara said, I'm Dr. Ashlea Espinal. I am the Assistant Curator for the Whitney Western Art Museum at the Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming. And I also have the privilege of being a board member for the Wyoming Arts Council. And so I'm happy to be here wearing both hats today and to share some wonderful evaluation insights with all of you. So thank you. And whenever you're in Cody, please make sure to stop by and see the center. We love to have you.
Yeah, and you've got a cool, do you want to just do a quick little, you have an art exhibit opening in May?
Yes. Thank you, Amara. Yes. In May, late May, opening May 24th. I am currently co-curating an exhibition, very exciting, fun one called Pop Goes the West. And it's on Western pop art. And so we're going to have lots of fun, really wonderful artworks, lots of bright colors. So make sure to come up to Cody between May and next January is when the exhibition is running to check it out.
Awesome. Thank you. And Tiger, go ahead and tell us about yourself and where you are.
Sure. Hi, folks. Happy to be here. My name is Tiger Robeson, and I'm Associate Professor of Music Education here in University of Wyoming in Laramie. Yeah, my contacts, I've with kind of evaluation and stuff is I've really been fortunate to sit on the community support grant, Wyoming Arts Council, on that panel for several years, and I do a lot of evaluation in what I do for a living and that kind of fun stuff on the research side of things. I hope I can provide some helpful stuff today, and I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, I definitely think both of you are going to have awesome insights. Before we get started, can everybody see the presentation? No? Okay. 1 second, let me bring it up because I wasn't sure if it was going to continue to be there when we came from the backstage or not. So everybody can see it? Great. Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, welcome everybody. We are going to dive into practical and creative evaluation strategies to help arts and culture organizations measure impact, improve programs, and also tell your story effectively. So that's why we're here, right? Evaluations help us understand, improve, and communicate the impacts of arts and culture programs. And we're also going to explore different evaluation types, data collection methods, and best practices. And one of the things that I would love for you guys to do in the chat is tell us what's one challenge you faced in evaluating an arts and culture program, whether you're doing that now or have in the past, or you're looking to do one in the future. Tell us some of your challenges. Hopefully we'll be able to address some of those as we go, but we can definitely address some of that when we hit the questions portion. So let's quickly talk about why evaluation matters. Well, it helps with funding and grant reporting by showing clear results and accountability. It improves future programming by revealing what works, what doesn't, and where adjustments can make a difference. I, for one, really love just a really simple feedback loop of what's working, what's not working, how do we change that to make it work better. It makes daily operations more effective by helping organizations manage resources wisely and streamline processes, which is great. It also deepens your community engagement by showing what audiences value and strengthening relationships with your stakeholders. It also supports long-term growth by guiding leadership decisions, increasing credibility, and ensuring sustainability. So all really good things. So what though, right? Well, lack of evaluation can actually hurt your organization, right? Missed funding opportunities, stagnation, program inefficiencies. Tiger had mentioned that he sat on the panel for the community support grant through the Arts Council. And one of the things that we do see in the evaluation section is sometimes people don't have a well thought out way of evaluating, and it does hurt them in that application. So something to think about if you're thinking about applying for CSG. Some common misconceptions is that maybe you only think evaluation is for your funders. Well, that's not truly the case. It's also for learning and strategic growth, like we've mentioned, and it has to be complex. Nah, we don't need to be complex up in here. It can be very simple if we need it to be. So simple methods can also be very powerful. So our first panelist question that I'm going to toss over to you guys is, can each of you share an example of how evaluation helped shape or improve a program in your experience? Tiger, we'll have you go first.
Yeah, sure. So my background is in the public schools, for 10 years. And so now I help teachers become teachers and things like that. So, I mean, there's mandates and things that like we have to do, but when I teach assessment and evaluation being a part of that, we talk about how it improves not only student learning, but also teacher learning, right? So like in, let's say, an after school arts program, right? After school creative arts, music is my background, so we'll take that. If you give kind of a exit ticket, kind of like, what did you learn today type of evaluation, it on the smallest level, it tells you if the students are kind of absorbing what you want them to absorb. And then you use that information and you inform your own teaching. So you can kind of, see, it helps you teach better. And then if you zoom out even farther, like if there were, several programs or a similar program across the state, then you can kind of evaluate programs and see, where things are going. And then eventually, if you do it for long enough, you can almost zoom out, like the ultimate zoom out, you can inform policy, right? And so, hey, if we're thinking about starting some sort of colloquium or some kind of string of programs, like the string projects, it's kind of a nationwide, collaboration, right? Then you can start getting to the policy implications. So, participant, and then the person giving, and then comparing across programs, and then eventually policy. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Ashley?
So one example, it's not necessarily specifically for a program, but ties in directly with what I do as a curator here at the Whitney Western Art Museum. And so part of our work as a curator is coming up with the displays and the artworks that we hang in our galleries, and everything like that, and like what stories we want to tell through those artworks. And so in the summer of 2023, we conducted a survey of Whitney visitors. Did about 100 during that summer, just asking them what they thought of the Whitney. I've been here with the Whitney for about 3 years. My boss has been here for just over 2.5, and we've made some changes in the time that we've been here. Hung up some new artworks, kind of rethought some sections, and so we really wanted to see what our visitors were thinking of that. And so the surveys, as I said, asked, what they thought of a mix of both historic works and contemporary works together. Did they like the themes that we are addressing in the museum, and things like that. And so based on feedback that we got in those surveys, we've tweaked some of our displays a little bit, just to make sure that we're meeting some of our visitors' expectations while also giving them something new, maybe that they haven't seen before, and telling stories maybe that they haven't heard. And so surveys and feedback can help you reshape what you're telling and what you're offering your visitors. Like I said, meeting their expectations while also still offering them something new.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so as we go forward, I'm gonna pass the torch over to Ashlea, and she's gonna take us through the next few slides.
All right. So when you're thinking about doing evaluations and coming up with things that will help your programs and your organization, there are some key principles for effective evaluations that you need to keep in mind as you're coming up with your evaluative strategies. So first off, start with very clear goals and questions. So what do you want to learn? Is the program increasing participation? Are people learning something new? Are you working on forming new partnerships, either with a different organization or with different community partners? Shape your evaluations and the questions that you're asking with your organizational priorities. So if you are very focused on, offering educational programs, make sure that the questions that you're asking in your evaluations go after, are we actually offering, educational value and programs here? Is this program meeting its educational goal? So second, use a mix of methods. Some arts outcomes are very intangible, so like an increased sense of belonging or an emotional response to something. So how do you measure both artistic and emotional impact? And there are evaluative methods that can help you do that. And one way to do that is combining both qualitative and quantitative approaches. And we'll get more into what those entail in a little bit. And so combining those two different approaches can lead to richer insights into your program. Example would be using audience numbers alongside a participant testimonials for a fuller picture. So getting those quantitative numbers while also getting, personalized stories and reactions from your participants and audience. 3, make your data collection manageable. So keep the surveys short and direct, something that won't take people a lot of time to answer, because people won't necessarily want to answer a 20-page, evaluation. But still, keeping it direct so you can get the information that you're looking for. You can use technology like Google Forms or QR codes for very quick feedback. And you can combine that also with paper surveys or hard copy surveys as well to give you a fuller picture. And then consider sampling rather than surveying everyone. So if you have 100 people attending the program, rather than trying to get 100 people's responses, kind of focus on at least getting 1/3. That's a really good number that will give you a good sense of feedback without overextending yourself while trying to get everybody's responses. So 4, engage your stakeholders in the evaluation process. So ask your funders, your staff, and community partners what insights would be valuable for them. What do they want to learn about the program? And what insights do they want to see? And you can also involve program participants in designing the evaluation. And so making it a very participatory evaluation and making them feel like they are also engaged and involved in the process. And it gives them a stake in the program as well. 5, use storytelling and data together. So this is that combination of quantitative data with qualitative data. So numbers can show trends, but stories make the data relatable. It gives you a human element and makes it more personal, easier for people to connect to. So an example, instead of just stating 85% of our attendees said the program is beneficial, include a direct quote from a participant explaining why. Why was it beneficial for them? What did they get out of it? And again, that can just help, make the information and the data relatable and make it easier for funders and other people to connect with. And then 6, close the feedback loop. Let people know how their input was used. How did the program change? If it's an annual program that you're offering, how did it change from one year to another? Tell people who took your surveys, hey, thank you so much for this. We heard you on this feedback that you wanted more variety in the musicians we're offering. So this year we've hired musicians from, folk, rock, and pop this year and added them in. So let them know how they are having an impact. Next. Thank you. So there are lots of different types of evaluations that you can do, and depending on your program or what you're looking for, you can use different methods. And then throughout the course of a program, you can also use multiple methods in order to just get more feedback, more evaluation to help you to continue to improve your program. So one of the first methods that you can use, or a type of evaluation that you can use, is a diagnostic assessment or evaluation. So this typically occurs before a program is launched. So this might be occurring in the planning stages. It's used to assess initial conditions, participant needs, and baseline knowledge before a program is implemented. So methods can include pre-program surveys, focus groups where you bring people in, tell them this is the program that we're thinking of, and asking for their input and feedback. It can be a skills assessment or a community needs assessment. Again, bringing in focus groups and asking, we really want to offer a new type of program to the community. What do you want to see? What do you need? What does this community need? Another type of evaluation is a formative evaluation. So this can occur before or during program. And this is used for planning and improving programs while they are being developed. So kind of like a diagnostic evaluation, but it's one that can continue during the course of the program. So methods, again, can include needs assessments, pilot testing, stakeholder interviews, and a SWOT analysis. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so you can look at what your strengths of your organizations are and what you do well. You can look at what needs to be improved. What could this program help us improve? And then opportunities, look at the opportunities for your organization. What are the opportunities for improvement that this program could bring in? And then T, the threats, what could harm your organization? Is there a competitive program that is going on? Or, what is a weakness in your organization that might make it difficult to implement this program? Looking at all of those different things, those strengths, those weaknesses, those opportunities and threats can help you see what's going on and help you to strengthen the program. So another one is a process evaluation. So during a program, and this is one of the most commonly used types of evaluation, it occurs during a program and it examines implementation and whether the program is running as intended. So the methods for this evaluation can include tracking participation, monitoring engagement, getting staff feedback on, are people responding to this? Do we have an increase in participation, or are we seeing less people being involved? And observation as well, just observing people during the program. Do they seem engaged? Do they not seem engaged? All those different types of things can be part of that evaluation process. And then there are summative evaluations. So these usually occur after a program, and it's another one of the most commonly used types of evaluation. And these focus on measuring outcomes and overall effectiveness of a program. Methods include post-event surveys, performance metrics, again, those participant testimonials we've talked about a little bit so far, as well as post-program focus groups. So bring in that first focus group you brought in when you were asking, hey, this is the type of program we're thinking of. What do you think? Bring those people back in and say, hey, what did you think of the program? Did it meet your goals? Did it meet your needs? What could we do to improve? What needs to be done better? And then there's impact evaluation. And so this really looks at long-term change, and it looks at broader changes and systematic effects over time. And so these can include longitudinal studies, which is a research method that involves observing the same variables over a long period of time. It can include community case studies or social network analysis. And so an example of this type of evaluation would be a 5-year study tracking how a public art installation increased foot traffic in a neighborhood.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, time for another panelist question. So the question is, which type of evaluations do you find most valuable and why? Tiger, we'll kick it over to you.
Oh, geez. Thanks. Yeah. So when I'm teaching my students, I say certainly the most forgotten about form of evaluation or assessment is diagnostic, because especially when dealing with the general public and children, I mean, there's already people who already know what you want them to learn, right? And so diagnostic, I think, is like the most underutilized one. Like you don't want to my hook for this one is like, hey, have you ever been overwhelmed in a class? People raise their hand. Have you ever been so bored to tears in a class? People raise their hand. It's like, well, how can we avoid that? And the answer is eventually diagnostic assessment, because you don't want to teach what's already what they don't need or what they already know and that kind of fun stuff. But my go-to is formative assessment, which so happens during instruction, and the point of which is to provide feedback, right? So kind of 3 levels, right? Diagnostic before, formative during, and summative after. In the arts, at least, while there's some stuff for summative, like I think we know a lot of the stuff that we do is not linear, right? And so formative is where I hang my hat as far as providing feedback, and it's kind of like making that a two-way street, though, to listening to what would make experiences better and things like that. So that's where I hang my hat on that one. I could talk about this stuff all day, but I start to nerd out on these types of things. But yeah, I'll stop there. So thanks.
That's great. And that's why we asked you, because we love it. We love to hear it. We love to see it. How about you, Ashley?
I don't know if I really have like a particular favorite. All of these types of evaluation are really important and can offer different insights. It really depends on what type of program or like what exactly is being evaluated for what's my favorite ends up being. Just thinking of the exhibition we're working on right now, we're in the midst of some diagnostic evaluation on interpretive labels that we've written, like is this getting the story that we're trying to tell about Western pop art across? Are people understanding it? Did we lay too heavy into some art historian jargon, which I can sometimes do? And so for the stage of the exhibition that we're in right now, we're really relying heavy on that diagnostic evaluation. Once we actually get the exhibition up, we're going to be focusing more on some of those during a program evaluation types. Some process evaluation, the summative evaluation, asking people, what do you think of when you think of pop art? Has the exhibition changed your mind? That type of thing. Just really trying to figure out ways to gauge people's engagement and seeing if they learned anything from the exhibition, like we're hoping that they do.
That's awesome. I can't wait to come see it. Oh, yeah, go for it, Tiger.
Oh yeah, sorry. Just like on the hyper practical side, for those of you on the call, and I see some stuff in the chat too about public art, and happy to get to that too. Uh, for me, like it's really helpful as a grant panelist or whatever, if you go beyond the three levels of like in your evaluation, like if you have at least four levels of how you're uh giving back evaluation. So as far as like okay, do you agree with this statement? Or let's see, are you really absorbing this? If you have like just a three option thing, like yes, absolutely, or sort of, or not at all. What happens is that everyone kind of gravitates towards the mean. So everyone becomes a two. And then it's kind of hard to like have kind of any insights with that data, right? So if you have at least four, five is better, but if you have at least four levels to, any of these evaluations, that's really helpful, because if it's some people are kind of trending towards the lower side, and maybe they're a 2 out of 4, or trending towards the higher side, but a few more tweaks will do it. Then you get like much more nuance with your stuff. Of course, like the social scientist in me says, well, of course, on a bell curve, like most people are twos, right? But if you're wanting to get a little more kind of bang for your buck, like have like at least four options in any given, survey or question or thing like that. So yeah. Yeah, and then Sarita's point is really well taken there. What else would you like to tell us? That's really helpful. And then on, just in case I don't want it to get forgotten here, but yeah, the public art, that's a tough one, right? For me, uh, since I mean, if there was a possible thing to have like a QR code on a stand that goes to a Google form to say like, where people can have input about that. But like but public art is like a unique challenge, I think, because it's I mean, it's right there in your face. You don't have you know, you don't have a choice in the matter sometimes. So I think you'll probably get like both spectrums, both ends of the spectrum, as far as like, oh, I absolutely love this, or I absolutely hate this. And then as far as Rachel, best to measure social impact and translating anecdotal feedback into a meaningful impact statement. Yeah, my 2 cents on that one, and sorry if we get to this later, but from the anecdotal feedback, you can have agreement or disagreement questions. So you can have a quote from an actual thing. This public art really makes me feel this, or whatever. Then you can have, strongly disagree, agree, strongly agree, and kind of like take that and run from it with it. And like as a panelist, I'd really appreciate that, like, you didn't just come up with these arbitrary questions that you're asking about your art. Like, you started with this free form thing, and then from there went into this organized thing of here's a statement, and people tend to agree with it or disagree with it. And kind of, that's like the most organic kind of impacts measuring that I can think of in that context. So yeah, thanks. I'll stop talking now.
Yeah, it's great. It's great you can see the chat, because since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see it. So if you can keep doing that and kind of keep an eye on it so that we can answer some of those questions, that would be awesome. All right, we will go to the next little bit here, effective data collection methods. Go ahead and take it away, Ashley.
All right. Yeah, so in addition to being multiple different types of evaluation that you can do, there are a lot of different methods that you can do to collect data. And there's two kind of separate groupings of data that you can focus on. So one is quantitative. This is kind of the hard and fast numbers and metrics. And so you can obtain this through surveys, looking at attendance or satisfaction rates. You can look at website analytics, how much traffic are we actually getting to this website, looking at numbers of people who have visited it. And then looking at ticket sales, how many tickets have we sold? And then compare that with how many people actually showed up. And so this can look at demographics, just really looking at those kind of concrete numbers and metrics that you can look at. And then the other type of data collection will be looking at qualitative data. And so this really focuses more on stories and experiences, kind of focuses on measuring the quality of something. So we're focusing more on experiences and personal reactions with qualitative data. And so this is all that type of information that is not able to be represented by numbers. And so you can obtain that type of qualitative data through interviews, testimonials, focus groups, again, observations, types of creative feedback. And so one example is a one-word wall, and we'll get into that here and what that is in just a second. And remember, when you're getting qualitative data, to take notes, because again, this isn't the type of hard data that you can just obtain by looking at attendance numbers or anything like that. This is going to be data that you're getting by either interacting with people and attendees, talking to them, or getting through, written surveys, either hard copies or, electronically. So for your best practices in data collection, keep your surveys short and engaging. Again, people are much more likely to fill out a survey if it's like a 1 or 2 pager versus, a 20-page one that gets really deep into, evaluation. That type of evaluation is important as well, but you don't always get, a lot of people answering to that level. Use a mix of methods for richer insights. And you can do that even within just the questions that you ask, kind of like how Tiger was talking about having, a satisfaction survey that has a number 1 through 5, yes, this was great. No, this wasn't. But then also offer kind of open-ended questions that people can answer as well, so that you can see why they answered the way that they did. Ask yourself what barriers there are to participating in the surveys. Why might people not participate in answering a survey? Do they just not have the time? Is there a language barrier? Do they not have access to a cell phone or a laptop, which would make it easier for them to answer an electronic survey? So they might need a paper survey. Think of accessibility. Is there a vision problem, or again, those language barriers? And think about those barriers and form your evaluations, or have multiple different evaluations, so that you can offer people multiple different ways that they can answer your questions. And then have a plan to store the information. That can be in dashboards, it can be in Google Docs or Sheets, it can be old school, again, like I said, paper surveys that you just file away and keep, and then go back to and look at over the years. And sometimes it's best to have multiple ways to store your data. That way, if, oops, that flash drive with my data got deleted, but hey, I still have these paper surveys as well, you can still have a backup of your copies and your information.
Yeah, and I think on that note, one of the things that we've seen a lot in panelist comments, specifically for the community support grant, is there will be a lot of qualitative information in there about how they talked to people, the organization talked to people at the event, or when they came to the exhibition, or whatever that looked like, but then they don't take those and then put them someplace so that other people can access those conversations. So it's really important to have a plan to store information for both qualitative and quantitative. And so one of the panelist questions I have here, and I think a lot of people probably have an issue with this, is, do you guys have any successful methods to get people to take surveys? Because as you mentioned, Ashley, like sometimes you need to take a sampling and not expect to get all 100 people that were there. So do you guys have any successful methods?
Yeah, happy to jump in if that's helpful. It's funny because in this context, like when you're putting on something and you're reliant on funding for it to happen again, I think it's perfectly appropriate to make a survey either mandatory or like, really strongly encouraged, right? So I think it's perfectly appropriate for, like, let's say at a public event to, before everyone starts leaving, to say, hi, we want to thank so-and-so organization for funding this. a big part of making sure that this happens next year is for folks to take this quick survey and please be honest. Thank you. I think that's perfectly appropriate in the research world. Offering an incentive to take a survey and stuff is kind of a no-no, because then people just kind of end up kind of doing the path of least resistance. They'll just do all fives or all ones or something like that. And there's a little bit of that in when you're putting on work that's dependent on grants and stuff like that. But it's so much better than having nothing. Like if you have no surveys or no like response, I mean, that can really be kind of a deal breaker in a competitive funding situation, right? So if you make it either mandatory or you really strongly encourage it, like with no just level with them about like, hi, if you enjoyed this and you want it to happen next year, we could really use your help doing this, and eliminating all those barriers that you talked about. Like that's fine. And then just keep in mind that there are some people who are doing the path of least resistance, and kind of like have that into account when you're interpreting your results. So yeah, the incentive stuff, like, hey, two people will get like this $50 gift card. I've seen less success with that, but everything's context dependent, right? So if it works for you, then keep doing it. But I think it's perfectly appropriate just to level with people and say, we really need this to keep the event free or whatever. And people tend to honor that. So
Awesome. Thank you. Ashley?
Sometimes, and this can be difficult depending on your type of personality, but sometimes it's as simple as just going and talking to people if you have the opportunity. So if it's at like a music festival, if you have the staff or have the capability to do so, have people walk around and ask people and engage with them and let them know, hey, we want to know ways that we can make this festival better for you. Would you mind taking the survey or answering a couple questions or just letting us know what you think? And sometimes people are more apt to respond when it's a one-on-one engagement and they have a face to put to the questions. That's how we got the 100 surveys that we did back in 2023. We had somebody just going around in the galleries, just asking people, hey, would you be willing to do this for us, please? Again, like Tiger mentioned, sometimes incentives can be helpful, and it doesn't have to be, an extravagant incentive. Sometimes it could be, hey, we have these really cool, stickers for sale for our music festival. They're usually $2, but if you fill out the survey, you can get one for free. My nieces and nephews would be all over that because they are very much in the phase of, we have these, Stanley cups we need to cover with stickers. And so that would help you get a wide age range, just figuring out, things that interest people that might, incentivize them can sometimes be helpful. And so those are just a couple of different ways, meeting people where they're at, engaging with them, and then just figuring out something fun that would, in their minds, make it worth taking the survey.
I love it. I do have a follow-up question, but I feel like looking at time, we'll just keep going forward and maybe we'll have time at the end to ask it. So take it away, Ashley.
Okay. All right. I'll try to not take up too much time, but still make sure everybody gets through this. All right. So there's a lot of different types of, we've talked about different types of evaluation. We've talked about the different data that you can obtain. So now these are different types of data collection tools that you can use. And so as we've kind of talked about for arts and culture events or programs, sometimes traditional surveys don't capture the full impact, such as personal experiences, emotional responses, and deeper insights, which numbers alone can't capture. And so these are a couple of alternative ways to collect feedback, and there are multiple forms beyond this that you can use as well. So one example would be the one-word wall or reflection boards. So at the end of an event, you can ask participants to write one word that describes their experience on a large sheet of paper or a digital board. This could also be done during a program. So like during an exhibition, you could have a question prompt and either give postcards or Post-it notes, and people could put up their answers on the wall so then other people can see their responses as well. This type of collection tool is best for quick crowdsourced insights. So one example would be a mural unveiling might generate words on a word wall like inspiring or connected and community. Or another example, after a festival, attendees stick Post-it notes on a board answering, what did this experience mean to you? And again, that type of thing could continue going on during a program if it's like a multiple month program. Another type that you could use is pop interviews or on-the-spot feedback. So that one-on-one engagement. So you can conduct short casual interviews with attendees at an event. And remember to ask their permission, and then if they give it, record that interaction. So it could either just be an audio recording, it could be a video recording, and that could just be on something as simple as using your phone if you don't have actual like recording equipment to take around with you. Ask simple questions like, what stood out to you today? Or how did this experience inspire you? Just, encourage people to share their insights and their thoughts and their personal reactions to the event or the program. This is best for festivals, live performances, and informal audience insights. So an example would be at a gallery opening, record spontaneous reactions from visitors. What do you think of this artwork? Or do you like it? Do you not? Things like that. And then you could also use before and after reflection questions. So you could have participants write a short response before and after an arts program to see how their perspectives change. This is really great for capturing personal growth, emotional impact, and engagement shifts. So these types of collection tools are best for workshops, leadership programs, and immersive art experiences. So one example would be a playwriting workshop, asking participants before the first session, question, what story do you want to tell and what do you hope to learn about writing? And then after the workshop is done, ask the participants, how has your understanding of storytelling evolved and what surprised you most about the process? So that would give you that kind of before and after, seeing how people's, insights have changed, how their perspectives have changed, and what they've actually learned and taken from that program or workshop.
All right, thank you so much, Ashley. Tiger, we're going to toss it over to you to talk about using and communicating data effectively.
Oh, sure. So thanks for the opportunity. I think a lot of it is really well represented on the slide here, but I think kind of before all this, it would just be to know your audience, right, and know what the funding agency that you're going for, like what they're looking for, and then simply mirror that language, right? So Wyoming Arts Council, to their credit, I mean, I think they have the rubrics available already. So my advice is to, walk, or to run, not walk, to the site and, download whatever they're going for. A community support grant, I think, is the biggest one, right? And so in that one, and I think also you can see who's been, funded in the past and how they did their evaluation section and all that kind of fun stuff. But, compare that to someone like Mellon, right, where, or Elboken here in the state, where, in kind of getting a sense, like, sometimes an Elboken helper person will say, like, our organization loves stories. Like, stories are the most impactful thing that you can tell. It's the things that that we tend to fund. So anyway, but then getting into it, once you make those decisions, quantitative numbers for certainly on the public side of things, we sometimes public agencies subscribe to this idea of utilitarianism, right? Like doing the most amount of good for the most amount of people. And the only way to do that really is with numbers. And this many people were affected, this many people responded to our survey, and they had, almost all of them could agree on this, that, the other thing, and that's fine. Qualitative side, more of, stories and testimonials. That's, again, we traffic in words, and, you're listening to the sound of my voice using words, not numbers, right? And so it's certainly, I'd say if you're if you're appealing to people's emotions as well to their sense of logic, then qualitative data some put special emphasis on direct quotations, and that's really helpful. Yeah, I think this bit is right on. Quantitative data provides measurable proof, right? And I'm the first to say that in the arts, a lot of what we do is ineffable, right? And it's not definable, right? But it is made up of smaller things that can be measured, right? So, for example, improvisation, right? And being able to improvise on an instrument, it's sort of hard to assess, right? But it's made up of very smaller constructs that you can assess. Like, do you know the style of the music that you're playing in? And do you know, your scales and what notes typically fit and not fit, right? So, yeah, so both on the quantitative and qualitative, if you ask yourself, is there a step I can evaluate before this? Generally, you're going to be pretty okay. And then this bit on listening or learning styles, rather, I also think is dead on. I've seen some really creative things like something taken from like the pain scale, like in nursing, where it's like a smiley face over here and sort of morphing to over a 5-point thing to like a frowny face. And someone kind of took that effectively from like the medical fields and used that to do an art uh, evaluation, and it transcended all the language barriers. It's very cool. So all right, that's way too much on that slide. I apologize. Yeah, all right. So I think my 2 cents is to start from the bottom on this slide, right? So kind of finding what is meaningful to you, and if it's a one-person shop, and to find out what is going to create internal improvement the fastest, if it's numbers and you're driven by that, if it's either people going through the door or if it's you know uh, percentages of this, that, and the other thing. I kind of start there, and as you kind of zero in on something that works and seems to strike a chord with people, then you kind of move up to the community members. So let's say there's something that really kind of resonates with the people of let's say Rock Springs, right, where my wife is from, right? And kind of getting in Rock Springs, I know there's there's the public sector, of course. There's also a big Catholic community, and kind of just seeing what different communities, what different parts of the community value, and starting from there, right? Like that's being culturally sensitive, right, as to what seems to be resonating with people, and then finally kind of working up, like once you kind of have that in order, kind of working up towards funders and stakeholders. So for me, this is like a big it's kind of like a more overarching thing where kind of the bigger funders have they kind of look for these things. Like I think some of the wiser big funders know that all things are local, and they kind of look for if you've done your internal improvement homework. And so, yeah, I think kind of starting from the bottom is really kind of the way to bottom of this slide. That is not, there's no like hierarchical values here, but kind of getting your own shop in order, and then reaching out to the community, and then eventually to bigger stakeholders. And all of these are great. Data visualization, like in the quantitative bit, with some of these things that are free, in a lot of cases, Canva and such, it's never been easier. So yeah, I think that's helpful. Yeah, closing the feedback loop. I was on a meeting last week where feedback is like a two-way street, right? You can kind of reach this level of kind of burnout if you keep asking for feedback, and you use it, okay, but you don't tell the people about how how their feedback was used, then people kind of get sick of providing feedback, right? But a very easy fix to that is just letting people know that, what they said, what you reported that they said, and how we used it to make decisions about the next upcoming year, right? So, and some of that is not always black and white, right? So if you have like a bimodal thing where you had a event, and let's say you had a lot of people who really loved it and a lot of people who really did not react well to it, like simply report it, as back to the people, and say like, oh, okay, well, we hear you, we honor you, and we see that this is a split thing, so we're going to go more this direction this year and then this other direction the next year. That kind of stuff is kind of the two-way street that keeps good feedback coming, and by good I mean like helpful feedback.
Oh, gotta unmute myself. Thanks, Tiger. So just some quick food for thought before we get into, I think we'll skip this panelist question because I do want to make sure that we have time to answer some of the questions in the chat. So I think one of the things to think about as you're heading out of this webinar is how could you use evaluation findings in your own work? So that doesn't necessarily mean in your own organization, but as artists across all mediums, how can we use feedback in our own work to then translate over to organizations, which I think is kind of fun. We've got some final takeaways here. One thing I will note is this slide deck will be available, so we'll send it out to you. So don't worry if you're like, I didn't get all my notes in. We'll be able to send this to you. So just some things that I'm sure you've heard numerous times over and over: use a mix of methods, make evaluations easy and engaging. Don't just collect data, use it, incorporate storytelling, close the loop. So we'll get to questions, and here's my contact information. You can also find this on the Arts Council website, because I'm going to close out of this so I can see the chat. But if you are looking to apply to the community support grant, those applications are open. They opened on February 17th, and they will close March 28th at 11:59 p.m. We do not take late applications, not registrations, applications. So make sure that you get them in. If you have questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. We can definitely walk through all that good stuff. So with that, Tiger, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah, let's see. So I think we got to a few of them, but are you aware of any state, federal resources, money, or data research available to support accessibility updates? So ADA or translators, et cetera, in arts programming. I put my colleagues here at UW, who it's like part of their job to kind of make sure that everyone has a resource in WIND, Wyoming Institute for Disabilities, or adaptive technology. So I put that into the chat. But what do you folks think on the accessibility side?
You can definitely apply for the community support grant to help you with accessibility upgrades. So just as a side note for us.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Scrolling through. This one we sort of got to, but not necessarily. Taking the impact information we obtain and making it digestible, then marketing it to various audiences at the right time. Sure. So yeah, again, a lot of that is kind of front loaded, where if you look at rubrics or kind of like the mission of any given funding agency and what they're looking for, they're usually pretty clear. And also grants officers or people who are otherwise like assisting in any kind of agency, program officers, I think sometimes they're called, having a conversation with a human being is really, really helpful. So yeah, we only traffic in percentages of people going through the door, or we only traffic in stories that we ourselves will market to the general public, that kind of thing. So it's basically knowing who you want to do that for. I hope that's helpful. And then let's see. Can you share names of good online data survey resources? Let's see, I use Great Schools just for like if I have to know about a community. I mean, like I want to know about a community, but I have to report certain things that I might not know off the top of my head. Great Schools is will tell you like, you know, what percentage of people are on free and reduced lunch, you know, in the schools, you know, kind of some basic demographics. I don't know if that's quite your question. Can you share the names of good online data survey resources?
If you're
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. If you're looking for like resources where you could like create an online survey that people could fill out, there's lots of different free resources that you could use. I know SurveyMonkey is one. Google Forms can be used to create surveys as well. And so there's a couple of different options there. And then in terms of, I just wanted to jump back to the, you know, taking the impact information we obtain and making it digestible. Just speaking from experience, we went through that with that 2023 survey. And really, sometimes it just starts with going through the data yourself, just reading through everybody's answers in order to get a sense of what people said, and then figuring out easy ways that you can break it down for yourself. And so maybe it's, you know, bringing all of the, you know, this certain question had this answer for 1 through 5. So we had X amount of people answer 1, we had X amount of people answer 2, we had X amount of people answer 3. And then once you break that data down like that, you can turn it into graphs that may help visualize your answers as well. And then going through and for each of those questions, you know, pulling out those personal testimonials. And so finding some of the ones that have, you know, the most impact for you, like, oh, people said, you know, they really loved this artwork, but they really wanted to, you know, see a little bit more landscape paintings or something like that. And so just kind of going through, reading it for yourself, so you get an understanding, can help you figure out ways to make it more digestible. And depending on who you're presenting it to, whether it's stakeholders, funders, board members, or the community, you can vary how you present that data based on what they like to see. So like I know personally, our advisory board here at the Whitney, they really like graphs. So we will present information and data to them in graphs because it really helps to visualize the answers that way. So hopefully that's helpful.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions? It's 12:59, so I know everybody's like, I gotta go do stuff. But if you do have burning questions that come up after this, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with Ashley and Tiger if you have a very specific question for them. I'm also happy to talk with you about evaluation. So feel free to reach out to me and I can get you connected or chat with you myself. Thank you all so much for being here. Ashley, Tiger, thank you so much for all of your insights. I learned a lot just hearing both of you talk, which is so great. So I hope everybody got some great stuff. This will be recorded, so you can come back to it later, and we will send out some of this information that we used. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you later.